Yes, ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for joining us here on INC Live and for the UFC 319 preview show. My name is Karl Bainbridge and I am joined by the man on... I was going to say he is on the right-hand side of my screen, but we're using a new software here, so he will probably turn up randomly time and again whenever he starts talking. He is the Scottie Pippen to my Michael Jordan. He's my friend and yours. It's Joe Neal. Joe, thank you very much for joining us.
Glad to be here. Glad to, I've been on a Naked Gun kick. I watched the whole trilogy recently. I saw the new movie, and I was gonna be like, I'm the Nordberg to your Frank Drebin, but I don't want to be Nordberg.
I don't think the guy playing Nordberg's son wanted to be Nordberg.
He does look at the camera in the movie. It just says, what, which is pretty funny.
It's a bit concerning though, because obviously anyone who watches the show knows I'm a Buffalo Bills fan. Do you imagine what it feels like that the most famous Bill of them all is,
OJ.
murderer OJ Simpson?
Yeah, known murderer, potential bank robber, and more. Kind of crazy. But as a team, you guys married Haley Steinfeld because, quarterback, it's all about the teamwork. So
Another win for Josh Allen. Carrying that team on his back. We could sit here and talk about the NFL, but we'll save that for INC Uncaged. You can get that on our Patreon page. We are here to talk about mixed martial arts, and as you could tell based on my little Chicago Bulls reference here, we are back in Chicago for the first time in a long, long time for UFC 319. Joe, where do you stand when it comes to Chicago as an MMA community? They've had a few champions before. Is it a good crowd? Do you enjoy going there as a fight fan? Does it matter to you at all?
got some good cards in Chicago, honestly. Some great cards. One of my favorite fights ever took place in Chicago. I remember the card well. Because the main event was my boy Whitaker and Romero. It was one of the craziest fights and rivalries ever. Both fights. The first one, everyone always talk about the second fight. The first one is incredible. And if you're a professional wrestling fan, Chicago does really well. I mean, you got people like Cora Jade, who, if Alexa ever leaves me, then I'm probably going there. Sky Blue, you have that, and you have the star in MMA and in pro wrestling, probably the greatest fighter of all time, CM Punk.
I actually think Chicago was where he had his last fight.
He did. You know what's crazy is in his two fights in the UFC, he was in there longer than Ronda Rousey was in her last two fights. I had to do the Austin Powers.
Remember who the admin is, Joe.
I have a text on my phone, or I did. I have the screenshot still, and it's on my Facebook of my friend Ant who passed away. He texted me after the Nunes fight, going, "When CM Punk lasts longer than you," and I just lost it. But karma's on me because the next day I have my DUI. So
Karma works in mysterious ways, Joe.
I know Rhonda got me drunk and it made me drive.
Well, two Chicago-based fighters, and someone actually did point this out, that Chicago actually had, a few months ago, two champions from the region. None of them were booked for this card. Like Bilal and Julie both avoided this one.
Weird. Yeah. Bilal, remember his name, they say, and it's so weird to me that even Chicago doesn't care about him. I feel so bad for him.
I do as well. I certainly do as well. One person I didn't feel bad for though, and we're going to start by talking about, because I've got the feeling, ladies and gentlemen, I have to issue a word of warning. I've got the feeling this preview show may very well lean on the negative side, bearing in mind one of the people who's in the main event. So, before we get to that one, I am going to focus on something a bit more positive, because we, unfortunately, didn't have the opportunity to record UFC 318. And I think the fight card itself was quite ho-hum. I think there were some really good fights. I personally loved Kevin Holland versus D-Rod. But on the whole, I came out of watching 318 with a smile on my face because the UFC on a whole has been very negative this year. I don't think the fights themselves have been all that great. I don't think the cards have been all that great. And I think there's been this real sort of air of almost corporate sleaze around the UFC.
Well,
318 was one of the few times I felt this year which felt like a nice show because it was built around let's celebrate the career of Dustin Poirier, let's give him his flowers. And that doesn't normally happen when it comes to the UFC. And I just felt it was a really nice, enjoyable experience to watch.
especially like, after us having to deal with slop after slop after slop after slop when it comes to um what's it called? You know, fight nights and everything like that. When these last two pay-per-view cards have been good, you go, well, this is kind of nice. Is this what they're supposed to be doing? And then the UFC goes, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Welcome back to 319.
We go for, we go from that to Joe Rogan glazing a Warlord's BFF.
Yeah, true. Yeah. It's amazing. Yeah, you just got to get off Twitter. Just got to get off.
Word of warning, if you are a Khamzat fan, I recommend you maybe mute vast majority of this video because your boy is going to go through the ringer, I'm afraid.
We're pumped. We're really excited to talk about them.
Yeah, and
At
we
least
will
I
get
am.
to that a little bit later on. Now, one of the big reasons we didn't do a show for 318 was unfortunately we have been dealing with some technical issues. Obviously, Skype shut down. It doesn't have all the other alternatives we have don't have NDI capability. We tried some workarounds with the 316, 317 previews. Great job on Rob, by the way, for stepping in on short notice. But it was maybe a little bit too tech for our own good. There were some issues with sound audio. So we have switched to Zoom to record this. So as a result of that, there are limitations for how long you can record on Zoom. So because of that, and because we have heard some of the people saying, hey, you talk a little bit too much, you rabbit on, shut up, all that kind of stuff, we are going to be changing our format a little bit. So the first half of the show, we will be talking about the main card on a whole. So we'll talk about all the fights on the main card, delve into some of the prelims, and then we'll spend a big, healthy chunk talking about the main event. Which, would you say that's okay for yourself, Joe, or do you prefer the
It
old
works for me.
format?
It works for me. The old format is a lot of fun, and we get to go for a while. But it also makes shooting easier, which is nicer with my current schedule. Because
Which is another
I do,
reason why we did it as well.
I had to step away from the preview, not the preview show. What's it called? The retro reviews for my scheduling issues and everything like that. So it's like this is kind of like oh, this works out, a little bit for me.
And for that reason, we will be talking about the majority of the card here. So we'll go for the core main, focus on some of the prelims, and you can see the main card itself on your screen right now. So the big thing that we're going to be kicking off with is our core main event. Now, this was kept under wraps for a long time. TBD was supposed to be fighting TBD. Biggest pullout merchant in the sport, TBD. He gets booked for all these fights, never actually follows through with them. But it
It's like
was finally
vacant.
vacant as well. Probably the most
Yeah.
unreliable champion in the UFC, never defends.
Never depends. Vacant. And WWE cross promotion champion there.
I always love that joke that Brian Zane said about WCW in 2000 that
Yeah.
when vacant held all the belts at the same time.
I That's where I got the joke from. Was Brian Zane, old school Brian Zane fan.
But it was finally revealed to us what our core main event is going to be, and it's the UFC debut of Aaron Pico, who's going to be taking on Lerone Murphy. Pico was originally supposed to be the core main of the Abu Dhabi card up against Movsar Evloev. Evloev unfortunately got injured. Pico was rescheduled for this. And I'm going to open up with this question here, Joe. Do you think that Aaron Pico being booked against Lerone Murphy is built more around Aaron Pico making a big statement, introducing himself to a new audience? Or is this the UFC wanting Lerone Murphy out of the title picture?
I think this is I kind of lean towards the first one. I think they're trying to take a gambit here,
Uh,
but I
don't
feel
get me
like they
wrong,
should know better.
I think it's a
Huh?
win-win from the UFC, regardless of who
Hmm.
comes out on top. But
Hmm.
I do get the impression, I think the reason they booked Pico against Murphy is the same reason they booked him against Evloev, because in both situations, It's a guy on a big winning streak who's starting to enter the title conversation. But there are also guys who the UFC don't see much upside with because they have quite conservative fighting styles.
I can agree with that. It's odd because I go Aaron Pico, Bellator, never was champion at Bellator. He's coming into like, and I know we all know the story of Aaron Pico. If you don't know, really quick, he's was like the first MMA's first super prospect while he was in high school. Kid's 2 years, 3 years younger than me. I was hearing about Aaron Pico when this kid was like 12 years old. And I was like, what is this guy? What? It's weird. Bellator signs him, the hottest prospect at 0-0, comes in and he's had an up and down, but he started turning it around lately. He's very good right now, but it's just weird that we're giving him co-main event treatment out the jump. You know, like we didn't treat MVP this way. We didn't treat Patricio Pitbull this way. The only guy we treated like this was like Michael Chandler, and like even then we were kind of like, come on, come in. Um, it's very odd. And I think they're taking a risk here. I think this is a gambit because if Lerone Murphy wins, it's like, okay, cool, you got the UFC's back at square one with a guy that they don't want to promote, still winning. But if Aaron Pico wins, see, we did a good job with that co-main event. See, we planned that, because if not, then like Lerone Murphy, as good as he is not at a co-main event level, I think yet. It's kind of like Roman Kopylov last pay-per-view was like, oh, like kind of a similar thing. If Roman Kopylov won that fight, we go. The UFC goes, see? Yeah. But now we're like, wow, Roman Kopylov co-main a pay-per-view.
I
Weird.
think I think they're always very there's real differentiations. I'm mumbling my words here. You can tell I haven't done this
Yeah, I know
for a
shit.
month.
Yeah,
There's real
rusty.
differences, I feel, that when the UFC, when it comes to core-main events with the UFC, outside of title fights, because sometimes they can do these big title eliminators, sometimes it can be a big all-action brawl. But I remember an Apex card where Cheyenne Vlismus was the core-main event.
It was awesome. I mean, it was horrible. It's a terrible card. It was a terrible plan. I hated giving her more screen time.
She's a married woman.
Just because she's on a diet doesn't mean she can't look at this menu.
Another question I do have though is if Pico was to win this fight, does he jump Evloev? Because I can tell the UFC do not want to give Evloev a title fight. I know that he's unbeaten. I know he's the number one contender. I know Volkanovski himself has actually
He's
called
even
out the
saying,
UFC and said, I want to fight Evloev. I still get the feeling they're going to try everything they can not to give him a title fight.
wouldn't that be okay. You know how we're normally like,
Merit
man,
based.
UFC's like matchmaking is so bad, blah blah blah. It still is. It's still horrible. It's still terrible. But like, just like how I stopped loving the bomb, stopped fearing the bomb, I started loving it, kind of thing. Doctor Strange love. I've kind of hit the breaking point where I feel like I've gone insane with how bad the UFC's been. That I'm kind of sitting here going like, the UFC, if Aaron Pico wins, the UFC has a chance to do the funniest thing ever. Like, let's jump Avoyev again. Avoyev, you're back on the early prelims. Like, it's horrible. Think they if Aaron Pico finishes Lerone Murphy, not just wins, it finishes him. Oh, there he's absolutely jumping Avoyev. And
Because
it's going to be hilarious.
they even did it earlier this year. Like they gave
Yeah,
Diego Lopez the Volkanovski fight, even
he
though
deserved it more.
Evloev beat Diego Lopez.
Weird how that works. I still think Diego Lopez earned it more, right? Like, we as weird as that sounds, like a short notice win in the head to head. Okay, hey, you know what? It's a win in the head to head. That's pretty interesting. But I think what's it called? I still kind of feel like Diego Lopez was just slaughtering guys so easily outside of the third round against Dan Ige. It's kind of like, is he gonna run through Volkanovski? Let's see. It's kind of interesting. I think if speaking of Lopez, if Jean Silva finishes Diego Lopez, they're giving him the title shot.
He's a wild card. He's a wild card to get that title fight.
And honestly, I'm more afraid of him than anybody in this division. I don't know about you. I've been in physical altercations with people that I go, well, that was scary. I don't think I've ever seen anyone like as scary as him because it's like he's gonna knock you out and then like cry about how he like nearly killed me and then start barking like a dog like he's possessed. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know how I feel about having to consult an exorcist in my training camp to prep for him. So, I mean, he probably is jumping everybody if he beats Lopez.
Do you think people are going to be terrified of some of the other fighters on the main card? We've got Jeff Neal taking on Carlo Prates, which it kind of feels like Jeff Neal doing his kind of obligatory role as kind of like the welterweight elite gatekeeper.
Mhm.
Prates obviously had that jumping quality when he fought Ian Gary, which he actually came very close to winning that fight. I think a lot of people forget that the rally later on had Gary on the ropes. We've also
Yeah.
got Jared Cannonier versus Michael Venom Page. Some
Uh,
people speculate that it could be Cannonier's last fight. I know there were sort of questions regarding his contract. I think they wanted RoboCop to beat him earlier this year, but Cannonier
I
turned
think
him
so
back.
too.
And Tim Elliott is going to be taking on Kaya Sakura, which is his first fight since he lost a title match with Pantoja.
That fight's super interesting to me. Actually, the Kaya Sakura fight is very interesting to me because one, I like Tim Elliott. Who doesn't like Tim Elliott? He's probably slightly too respected to be a boy, but man, he needs to get some hate on him because he'd be in everybody's stable. Um, he'd be that dude's not even allowed at the boy and breakfast. Um, and OS, I've been watching a lot of OSW this week too. Uh,
I kind of like one of the things I actually quite like about Tim Elliott, and I shouldn't like him because of what he admitted to, but he just flat out said, "Yeah, I cheat you in me fights."
yeah, yeah, it's like, and we love him for that. Why? It doesn't make any sense. We vilify John Jones. Well, here's why. Tim Elliott isn't also going, through God, anything is possible. Anyways, I'm gonna go do a fat line of coke, and drive my car off a ramp, and hit five pregnant women in the air. Like, at this point, John Jones headline, I would believe anything. If they say, you wouldn't believe this, John Jones stole all the Chaos Emeralds. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, Tim Elliott's awesome. I've been a big fan of his for a while. I liked him on Tough, and then he won Tough, huge upset, and then nearly had DJ in their first round, which is crazy.
Was it a DAS?
It was I think, a guillotine, but it was a choke. He had him in a choke, and it was like super close. That submission is almost as crazy as the Volkanovski Ortega one, where you're like, no. Um, but yeah, Asakura to me is I mean, very rarely does a guy coming into the UFC that had a lot of success in major promotions really get me excited. There are two that have really been like, hey, that's really cool. And it's been Yuri and Kaya Sakura. So Kaya Sakura, I still root for. Because I go, he was awesome in like Zen and everything like that. So I want to see him. And plus, I want him to fight Tatsuro Taira. I think those two guys would have a fantastic fight against each other. Um, I think MVP Cannonier, probably Cannonier's last fight. Those two are pretty over the hill. I mean, MVP is still great. Like he's still really good, but I don't know. Um,
One of
I
the
don't
things
know
that's
if this is a title run.
one of the things that's impressed me about MVP is you sort of touched on it there. Like the guy is what, 37, 38 years old?
Yeah.
you expect to see the slowdown happening, especially
Hmm.
when he has such a style which is built around explosivity and being quick on his feet. You expect him to
Hmm.
slow down, but as we saw when he fought Shara, he
Yeah.
dominated Shara,
Oh
and
yeah.
which the UFC never bring up. Have you noticed that? Like,
Well,
obviously,
because
Shara was getting
he's got
all
Dana White privilege.
yeah, Shara was getting all the bells and whistles after he barely beat Barrio, when MVP made him look foolish, and that
Yeah.
was what 6 months ago.
Wasn't that long ago at all.
There's a lot of that with the
There is.
UFC. I think one of
There
the
is
things
so
I've
much
really come
offense.
to notice over the past two or 3 years is if the UFC have results that don't go their way, they'll do
Which is
whatever they
what?
can to wreck on them.
Hmm. I have I believe that 100% because who talks about besides us and other people on YouTube? Guess who's making like another like comeback right now is Dominic Reyes. They are never ever going to show him beating up John Jones. Not right now, or maybe right now actually, but they weren't going to do it during the Aspinall ducking situation, you know.
They
But
don't bring up Rose
uh,
Bate and Whaley twice.
yeah, they don't. They needed to push their agenda,
Yeah, Charles
you
Johnson beat
know.
Josh Van.
Yeah, knocked him out.
Charles Johnson is one
Um,
of the most underrated fighters in that flyweight division.
I can agree with that. He's really good. He's already a lot of fun at least. Um, I think Carlos Prates. I think man, it was so close. I think you could have stopped it, but TKO. I always lean towards stopping it early than late, so I know that about myself. With that, and I don't like not JDM. I almost call him JD. Oh, Ian Gary. I don't like Ian Gary at all. So there is bias. So that said, like I'm not gonna fault them not stopping it because I'm aware of my own bias in always being on the stop it early than late. And I don't like Ian Gary. Just stop it because it'd be funny. Um, and because if Ian Gary gets finished in a fight, like it's really funny to me to think about what would happen. His wife would probably like put him in timeout, make him like sleep in the garage. Like you're not even allowed on the couch anymore. Like, he's gonna be stuck getting going from the couch to the garage. I think that's kind of funny. Uh, actually, I just thought of this. Speaking of funny, could you imagine if like MVP wins, beats Cannonier, like smokes him, and they go, you know what, MVP, you're fighting DDP. Could you imagine like the hilariousness of that fight? Like the unironically funniest fighter ever versus like a guy who just is genuinely funny and how smooth he is.
Oh, if regardless of the main event result, we've got to do DDP versus RDR. Have to.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, the two goofiest guys ever. Um,
You think you're
DDP,
special? You do.
DDP, RDR, and the winner has to fight MV. You know what? Triple threat, MVP, and then it's I'm trying to think here. Dana White privilege on a pole match. Um, uh,
I'm just picturing the WCW match where Booker T has the
Judy
picture of
Bagwell.
Scott Hall.
I was thinking Judy Bagwell on a pole. Uh, I forgot. The OSW brought it up, and I was watching that's what I watched this week was the Ultimate Warrior in WCW arc, and they bring up how Judy Bagwell was telling Buff that he's like grounded. He's not allowed to come to Thanksgiving dinner if he keeps being a cheater. Incredible.
Anything else that stands out for you on the prelim portion?
For prelims, I like Brian Battle a lot. Admittingly, I think Brian Battle's kind of fun. He's fighting Ruziboev, who I mostly know for getting if it's Ruziboev, I'm thinking of getting one of the worst decision robberies ever in recent years against Carlos Leal. Um,
No,
where I
that's
think Leal
Renat.
was it Renat? Oh, it was Renat. Yeah.
Ruzabov
God,
is the massive guy who tried fighting at the welterweight. He's like 6 foot fight, but he tries to fight a
Oh yeah,
welterweight.
that dude is huge. Yeah, that should be fun. Brian Battle is a lot of fun. Brian Battle has one of my favorite post fight. I'm gonna talk crap to the crowd. He's in France, fights a French guy. He KOs him in round one pretty easily. Looks at the crowd's booing him, so he senses that he's already not a fan-friendly fighter here in enemy territory, and decides to poke the bear, which is pretty fun to me. He goes, y'all thought some Frenchie was gonna beat the butcher?" And the crowd gets even madder as I imagine the French crowd was all like angrily flicking their cigarettes like out of their mouth. I've never been to France, but I imagine the stereotype is true where 90% of their population smokes cigarettes. So I imagine the whole crowd. "Yeah, how could he do that to us? Yeah, the butcher." Um, but
What, throwing
what's it called?
baguettes into the
Yeah,
into the
throwing
ring?
throwing baguettes. I think he even said like, "Y'all thought some frog eating, mofo was gonna beat me." I've had frog. Frog isn't bad. Um, but Barboza, Drakkar close. It's weird seeing Barboza on a prelims because like UFC loves putting him on a main card and going, isn't he still a thing?
A lot of unk energy I find on this card.
Yeah, it's
Like
fair.
not only Barbosa, but you've also got
Bobby
Mershad's on
Green,
there, Bobby Green. I'd put Diego
Carlos
Ferreira
Diego
there as
Fajeda.
well.
Yeah, Chase Hooper. Definitely.
Good
He
thing
has
you
like
brought
weird
that up
unk.
actually, because I was actually going to want to cover that fight in a bit more detail because um, I've really been impressed with the
So good
jump
right now.
in Chase Hooper's skill set over the past few years. Because I
He's
remember
so
seeing him
good
when he
right now.
fought against, I think he fought Steve Garcia, and he got
Yeah.
absolutely mangled on the feet. And I thought,
Yeah.
this guy's going to get cut. But he has made real strides in his performance. And I personally think he's got a really good chance of beating Alexander Hernandez.
Yeah. It was remember Peter Barnett, like he came in, TKO's David Teemer, and everyone's like, "Oh man." Then Alex Caceres beats him. Fair. Way too high of a jump in quality for a young like kid like him. Then Peter Barnett, I remember this fight. I had to look up the name. So I remember it was a Peter or something. And it's it's during 2020. There's no crowds. And Joe Rogan and everybody's like, "This kid sucks." It's like, wow, this kid doesn't belong here. He doesn't belong in the UFC. This guy is terrible. What is he doing here fighting? And it goes into the third round, and he just heel hooks him. And they have to like, because of how hard they were going at him, they have to kind of like realize not only did we crap talk this guy who the kid like kid who probably had his prom a year ago, we he just won as we were talking crap about how he's too young to be here. And now we have to like go, "Oh, well, we didn't really mean that." It was really awkward. It was so funny. But man, his striking looks better. He's not like gonna light you up and dominate you on the feet. He didn't turn into, like Aldo or something like that out of nowhere, but he can strike now. He knocked down Borshev,
Slava
which
Claus.
was yeah, Slava, which is an awesome name. He knocked down Borshev and busted up Borshev pretty bad actually. And who Borshev's a really good striker. Like that dude can't grapple to save his life, but that dude can strike. And beats Jim Miller, taps Clay Guida, taps Jordan Levitt, which is huge.
Hmm.
Like, that's one of Patty's like best wins, I think, is like underrated wins and how much he dominated Jordan Levitt. And he did the same thing. So yeah, what I'm saying is Chase Hooper and Patty are about the same here. If Chase Hooper would have fought Chandler, a washed Michael Chandler that we have to say, is that's still a good win. I'm
Yeah,
sorry. I have to add Michael Chandler beating him. I mean, like the only time he had any success against Charles was when he was dastardly cheating. and Chandler post waiting 2 years to fight Connor is horrible. Like he is super washed. It's um I look forward to watching him fighting in GFL, and they bring that back. I'm
I
funny.
don't think that's going to happen.
Spoilers.
We covered the
We
whole
covered it this week.
whole darn saga.
Well, I bought GFL for $20, so I'm bringing it back. First card: Michael Chandler versus Tony Ferguson. I'm bringing it back.
I don't want to see that after the way the first fight happened.
You know, it's crazy. Tony Ferguson won the first round.
Yes,
Weird to
yes.
think. Yeah.
We are starting to run a little bit short on time when it comes to the part one of the show. I'm getting all the warnings here from Zoom. Uh,
Okay.
One fight I do want to talk about though before we move on to the main event. This is a bit of a crossroads for Jessica Andrade. She's kind
Yeah.
of been jumping between weight classes, fighting a strawweight for a little bit, fighting a flyweight. I don't think the flyweight move works all that well for her. I think we start to see her size discrepancy come to the forefront a bit too much. I mean, she got dominated by Jasmine in a most recent fight. She's back at strawweight this time around. Is the Lupi Godinez fight kind of, I wouldn't say last chance saloon, but is this her last chance to really be seen as relevant?
I think we've said this a lot, and I've agreed every time. And I'm going to agree here. Um, because Loopy is not the person I think we thought she was, and I like
Lupi's
Loopy, but
okay. She's solid.
yeah, but she had that what, like she was like a what, 4 or 5 win streak against like I think like the biggest name in that was well Calvillo. I remember was on that, but like we already knew what Calvillo was about by that time.
Yeah.
Um, and but I think Elise Reed was like the biggest name on that list, but people were talking about that run, and then it didn't go anywhere, right? It just kind of is what it is in this sport, but um, I don't know. I would like this to be another like pretty good run from Andrade because I'm of the belief that how do you not like this fighter? Like how do you not like that chick? She's so much fun. Very pretty down to earth. Like she doesn't fight like it. When you see her fight, you go, "Oh, she's." There's certain people when you watch them fight, you go, "Yeah, that makes sense." And then, like, I'm trying to think of a good example, yeah, or a bad example of that though is like the people like similar to Andrade is like Sean Strickland talks like he's the baddest dude ever, and then he comes out and throws 1,000 jabs and like two teep kicks and no right hands. That's it. That's his whole fight. Like that's the whole Sean Strickland fight. Sean Strickland talks like he's Boss Rutan or Prime Whitaker, and it's like no, you fight. You're like a striking John Fitch, and you're a boxing John Fitch, and Jessica Andrade is like, wow, you fight like Vanderlei Silva. This is crazy. Oh, you're like really nice. Like you're kind of a nice, sweet person. It always seems like to me. Um,
What I think makes
but
this fight interesting to me is I kind of feel like both fighters represent a stylistic matchup that causes problems for the other. Because
mhm,
Jessica Andrade's big problem has always been girls taking her down and just dominate her on the ground. So we
mhm.
saw that when she fought Jasmine, Chev had her way with her when they fought for the title, same thing happened there. And then when you
Scaramouche.
look at Loopy, the people who've neutralized her are girls with great jiu-jitsu. Verna, Mackenzie Dern, like obviously two losses in a row. She managed to get back to winning ways when she fought on the Mexico card against Palastri. And
Mhm.
Andrade, I think one of the more underrated parts of her game is her offensive wrestling.
Yeah, she can like. I mean, obviously she won the title off of her wrestling, you know, and Dominic Cruz, I think, willed that into existence by accident.
Can't lift there.
I want that on a shirt. I'm a huge Dominic Cruz fan for the record too. I want that on a shirt. Can't lift there. Can't lift there. Oh.
I've always said, that
Uh,
one of the things we should do is like start up like a t-shirt merchandise thing. Like
we
different
should.
phrases and quotes from the show, that kind of thing.
We should. I would. I know how to do it. I think I know how to do it pretty easily too. I think you can do it pretty easily. I'd be down for that. INC merch, where it's like the first shirt is
I sold more
Joe don't
pay-per-views than Nunez.
Yeah. Oh, the second one would be Joe, don't say Shevchenko. And just a picture of me clearly like, that meme of that kid, like, like veins in his neck, Photoshop my face on that. Joe trying not to say anything bad about Shevchenko. I mean, I haven't done it yet, but I'm saving it. Holding I'm holding it for later.
And with that preamble out of the way, it is time for us to talk about our main event of the evening. Dricus Du Plessis will be defending his middleweight title, and he'll be doing so against Ramzan Kadyrov's best mate and one of the most annoying fighters in the UFC, which is Khamzat Chimaev. It is Chimaev, though, who comes into this fight as a minus 210 favourite. You can get Dricus Du Plessis at plus 190 according to the latest bookmakers' odds. Now, Joe, you were telling me before we started the show you didn't have the opportunity to prep any notes. You were a little bit behind. Obviously, you've had some work commitments. So I've been the Good Samaritan. I provided some of my own for you. So if you just open up that envelope there, you'll be able to get them.
A little handy early. And
We should have maybe rehearsed this.
yeah, I probably should have been a little bit more ready, admittingly. Um, these are the notes, right?
Yeah, those are the notes.
Uh, Carl, professional help is available. Carl, this just says all Hamzat in no play makes Carl a dull boy. Repeated over and over. Professional help is available. If we want a sponsorship from BetterHelp, this is not the way we do it, or whatever that YouTube YouTube thing is.
That is all a bit of a shtick from our end. I've sort of hinted at this earlier on in the show that we're not Hamza fans. We
No.
disagree with a lot of his behavior behind the scenes. We disagree with him, um, essentially just being. I understand that the sport is built around self-belief and self-confidence, but he takes it to a whole other level to the point that it becomes unbearable. But we will try our hardest to be as impartial as we can. But for anybody
Yeah.
who is a Hamza fan, you're going to understand that it's going to be hard for me and Joe, to try and keep that impartiality.
And does a little bit, at least decently well, because in the cage, when he does show up, I'm always like, oh, this guy's a barrel of fun. Honestly, like he's a barrel of fun to me. Out the second, like in between rounds, I'm just like, can the round start again so I can like him again? It is kind of the vibe I get because it can separate with him for some reason. I'm pretty bad about it normally. Like I have a hard time separating the John Jones from the John Jones fighter. Admittingly, even if spoilers, I think he's an overrated fighter personally too. But I like same with Connor. I have a hard time separating that a little bit. Hamzat, who I kind of dislike almost to that level personally. Yeah, I can separate it pretty easily. I don't know if that's because I started out as a fan of his, where I wasn't a John Jones fan ever, I wasn't a Connor fan ever, but I did start out in that 2020 year of like, yo, who is this guy? So maybe that's kind of separated.
I think it's hard for me to separate the man from the fighter. I think you can maybe do it a bit better than I can, but I just see all the interviews and I just see the ranting on social media, and I'm just like, just
He's a
shut
douche.
up. Like
Yeah,
he
he's a
really he's
douche.
very off-putting personality for what he does in the
Mhm.
cage. And I have to be honest as well, and I don't want people to get the wrong impression, because I know there's some people that will feel this way. I don't find him all that enjoyable as a fighter. Like I think
Mhm.
and that's not because I'm some sort of MMA guru type that hates all wrestlers just because they wrestle. It's not that at all. It's just the things I look for in a fight. I like to see ebbs and flows. I like to see fighters battling adversity. What happens if plan A doesn't go wrong? When you have a guy who just comes in, gets a takedown with no resistance, it's it's impressive. Don't get me wrong, but it's impressive in the same way that Max Verstappen winning a Formula One race a minute ahead of the field is impressive. It's just not what I look for in terms of
Yeah,
entertainment.
you want a little bit. You, in a sense, you prefer, and I'm not trying to words in your mouth. You almost prefer the Frankie Edgar style to the BJ Penn style, where when BJ's beating you, he's blowing you out of the water. If
Yeah.
Frankie's beating you, it's pure heart and quickness, in that sense. I I kind of enjoy it one sided, you know, to pardon my French, prefer one sided. Like as Chael Sonnen once said, I often prefer, or not prefer, but enjoy a good one sided pounding ass whooping, you know. Chael Sonnen was a lot of fun to me because when he would take you down, he was always doing something. It was like contrary to the John Fitches and Jake Shields of the world. If I take you down, I can do something, And then for me, Khamzat and Habib is my favorite to watch with that style. Another guy too, even though I don't consider him in the same vein, is like Fedor, because Fedor would take you down. And ground and pound, him and Habib are the best ground and pound artists ever, I think. But I can get down on that sometimes. Matt Hughes, I'm a huge Matt Hughes fan as well. Take you down, beat you up, and I think that's fun. Um, it's funny I say that though, and I think his most entertaining fight is obviously
Gilbert.
the yeah. 2022 is one of the craziest years of fights. I think if it's the year I'm thinking of, because that year was like we had that, and then it was like wow, I don't know what's beating that, and then Yuri Glover happens. Was that the same year?
Same year.
Yuri Glover. That's one of the craziest years of fights ever because I think obviously Moreno and Figgy were probably still fighting, so they probably put on a fight of the year that year. And because those guys, yeah, I know they fought that year because they probably had their third fight that year. And because anytime Figgy and Moreno fought, it was like, here's a fight of the year contender, every time. And but then Yuri and Glover is like a generational fight. I think that's a fight I show people who don't like MMA to be like, well, you like that sport so much. It always sounds interesting, but I'm just not a big fan. Here's this one. You like anime? Like that's an anime fight. It almost feels almost cliche, like a Hollywood scriptwriter would write it. Just when you think so and one of the fighters is out, the power of friendship makes him get out from top, getting mounted and pounded on, and he gets up and rocks his opponent. And
Uh,
then, and then what if the other guy did that too?
it sounded more like Paul Heyman when you were saying that.
I've been working on a Paul Heyman impression. My clients, my clients, Dricus Du Plessis. You may call
Conquered
him
the
awkward.
streak.
He conquered the street. We forced Sean Strickland to throw a right hand, something that hasn't been seen since the days of yore when he was getting decisioned by a 30% Kamaru Usman.
It's a good thing you did bring up the Dricus, not the Dricus fight, the Gilbert Burns fight, because
Mm,
that has been one of the big narratives that's come around Hamzat. And I think the Kamaru Usman fight as well has also played into this. We
mm.
know what we're going to get from Hamzat. It's going to be
Yep.
shot out the cannon. He's going to go in for a takedown in the first 30 seconds, and he's going to sit on your back and try and basically sub you for the
Break your
rest of the
face.
round.
Yeah.
Or face crank you. But what did we see against Gilbert Burns? And what did we see against Kamaru Usman? His
Couldn't
threat
take Usman
level
down.
drops dramatically after that first round.
Couldn't take him down after the second, third round, or after the first round. He couldn't take him down. And Usman almost uh, the fight's probably a draw for me. I think Usman
I think Usman got the
probably
final two
takes.
rounds.
Yeah, and so that to me that's a draw because that first round is a 10-8. Like it's a domination. But I think Usman edges rounds 2 and 3. For like that's me scoring their way. If I score it the Pride way, I think Hamzat won, right? Like is kind of the vibe I get from it. The overall score of the whole fight. Hamzat squeaks by an unimpressive win. It's kind of how I feel. Um, and Gilbert Burns, that fight, I think they both were just exhausted and beat up going into that third round. Like, but his threat level did drop. in that second round, which so I can a little bit excuse the third round because I think anyone with how much those guys were hitting each other, anyone's going to be tired like that going into the third round. But the second round, you do have a point because second round his hands are dropping a little bit more. His hands drop just enough, and he gets knocked. Nearly gets knocked out, and we got really close. Like we joked about this before. I'll tell you what we and him always joke about is that soccer kick over.
Imagine if
Like
Gilbert landed
barely
that
misses.
kick.
It ruined both of their. It ends two careers in one kick because there is no way Khamzat would ever be in if. And I'm not making fun of his scar, but imagine that being his whole face after that kick. He would get decapitated. His head would go flying into the stands like it's Scary Movie. I think was it 3 where Mike Tyson nearly did that to Amy Ferris, and it would have been horrible. And Gilbert Burns never would have fought again because of how blackballed he would have been for that blatant foul. He would have had like a Husamar Palhares moment there with that soccer kick. And I kind of wish it happened because it sounded fun. It sounds funny. Like the morbid, like, would it be funny? Like kind of moment is kind of kicks in, you know.
So we've talked about like the fast start. It's the trademark of Hamzat. It's just how fast he shoots for the takedown and gets you into his domain. What is he doing that's different to the other wrestlers? Like, how is he able to have so much success? Why haven't we had somebody pulling the Jorge Masvidal and just throwing that flying knee when he shoots for the takedown? What is it something he's doing technically which is different?
I think it's how fast he level changes because he's not level changing from like the middle of the ring, from the middle of the cage. He's not level changing from the middle of the cage to get the guy who's still in his corner. Like Ben Askren would. Ben Askren was doing that really to like because he saw Jorge run at him. Um, he's almost level changing at level changing in kickboxing range, right? So because he against the Rob, he came out, walked at him pretty aggressively, and just level changed, you know, threw him down like it was nothing. But the level change is just so fast, you can't even uppercut it because he's basically almost crawling at you because he goes for like really low singles. And if he doesn't getting that, he's going for like against Kevin Holland, he double legged him, I believe. And that one he practically didn't he almost feints a glove touch how fast he comes out. Because Kevin Holland's like, hey, I know I hate this guy. I'm beefing with him, but I'll try and glove touch him. And Hamza just ignores it and double legs it, which is kind of shit. Like
Not the first
from
time I've
a
seen him do that.
yeah, not the first time, not the last, won't be the last. Um, but he's so explosive. Like his that you almost don't it's coming. I could put it like this. I'm going I have a dodgeball in my hand. And I'm gonna throw it at your face. And I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna throw it as hard as I can. But you're not you don't know when. Like I'm throwing this dodgeball, but you don't know when it's coming. And that's probably how he gets you. Like the takedown is coming. With Ben Askren, you know exactly when that takedown is coming. But with him, that weird like couple microseconds off, fractions of seconds off is all it takes. And that's how he seems like he's getting it. And that's my point of view from my like history with like of my own experiences in grappling is like put it in my own words. I know my uncle is gonna go if we're going gi to gi. I know my uncle is gonna try and lapel choke me. Dude, that's his favorite thing. That's his shtick. He loves it. I just don't know when. And if I'm frozen, waiting for this, waiting for this double, he's at a low single. Or if I'm throwing an uppercut to counter this, double leg, he's going for a low single. If I'm looking
I think we might have lost Joe there.
this low single and make him crawl, and maybe I can jump on top for a sprawl, or circle out. Here comes a power double. Oh, it you back my back? It
Yeah, you're back. You're
stuttered
back.
for a second. Okay, cool. Yeah, but from my own experiences, like, I know the lapel choke's coming. I just don't know when. And I'm frozen up trying to defend my lapel. I'm getting armbarred or I'm getting, guillotine or naked. And who knows? That microsecond of you don't know, in those like fractions of a second when it's going to happen probably is the determining factor. That's my experiences with it.
Is there
Anyway,
a
my
counter,
guess.
or is it just something that is going to happen regardless of what you do?
I think there's a counter. Yeah, 100%. Lateral movement. Um, I think, he doesn't have the best footwork, honestly. Mearshart, kind of, our boy Mearshart, what's it called, was circling. He wasn't circling, like he was going in one direction. He wasn't going to stop moving that direction, right? It wasn't a sense like one of the best performances of footwork ever is, I'm not going to say Holly. I like my job. She obviously is one person I would love to talk about, but I use her a lot as an example. Let's use Eddie Alvarez in the second Michael Chandler fight, who would kind of go and then go, he'd feint here, and then he's going here. Like the lateral movement, I believe, is the counter to it. And I think if you're so Rob, to me, was the guy who was like, oh, dude, Rob is gonna, Rob's beating. Oops, oops. He said he wasn't sure how fast it was. So from a game plan perspective, there is a counter. He's just real quick, and he's just real. So I'm wondering if you need to kind of not. I think you almost need to prepare and get ready for when that hits you, and then just focus on stuffing it. I think avoiding the takedown is like by like physically trying to move out of it could be a potential pitfall and reacting to it. I think you almost just kind of need to be ready for it and then stuff it as you get there. And I think a guy who's going to be good at that is the champion, who is, he may be herky jerky, awkward, and dumb when he's a smart guy, it seems like, but man, when you watch him fight, you think this guy is trying to fit a square peg into a triangle hole, like how is this guy walking and talking at the same time? Um, he fights like Sean Strickland's intellect, is what I'm trying to say. And
Is that a compliment?
I don't know. Sean Strickland seems a little dumb to me. Uh, Sean Strickland seems a little dumb to me. But then again, Sean Strickland, I mean, DDP also is a champion with two title defenses. But he's a unit. He's a unit of a man. He is a very strong guy. If you get on his hips and he is ready for you to be on his hips, um, there's no guarantee you're taking him down because he might be able to outstrength you, or worse, he might try and stuff your takedown. His style seems like he's proverbial. His style seems like he's perpetually slipping on a banana peel. He might try and stuff your takedown, slip on a banana peel, and somehow get full mount on you. Like, uh, like he's the Three Stooges of fighting in a sense, and you don't know I'm on his hips, I can take him down. Wait, how does he have my back? Is kind of the thing. So I admittingly think that his normal style is not going to be as effective here against DDP.
Yeah,
But it could be helped.
I think DDP is capable of stuffing the takedowns if we do get into rounds 2 or 3. Because as I mentioned before, I do think that the Khamzat threat level does drop dramatically in those later
Mhm.
rounds. I don't buy into. I think there's a lot of people that buy into the idea of DDP gets into round 2, it's an instant win for him. Because I don't. I think
I don't
that
agree.
I think Khamzat's cardio issues are prevalent, but they're not as major as people like to make it out to be. I think that's a
Yeah.
narrative which is doing the rounds. He is going to slow, but I could see Khamzat going 5. He's going to go
Yeah.
slower, but it's not. Put it this way, it's not Amir Khani, where it's
Yeah.
just like one round
100%.
and then you're done for.
They're dead. Yeah. It's funny. Both of them had cardio issues. They both had cardio question marks for a very long time. And DDP has kind of gotten rid of his, I believe. and it was funny enough, for similar reasons. So Khamzat with his injury, because he fell down some stairs, I think when he was like a toddler, is how he has like this. That's why he has a scar, and one of his nostrils doesn't work, so he's only breathing through one nostril. So that you could honestly be like, oh, that's probably where some of the cardio issues come from, which makes sense to me, because DDP had horrible cardio issues. He looks like he's like a fish looking like flopping on the beach going into the third round against Darren Till. And with that last muster of strength, he gets a takedown and choke and wins, you know, because he was exhausted in that fight. Horrible cardio, it looked like, for a while. And then, at least when going into the third round, at least like his cardio just wasn't great in that third round. But then he had a really bad broken nose, it turned out, that had like, that he never, he tried to just let it heal normally, and it was like 4 years, I guess, of like a nose that just wasn't working, and so he got it fixed, I think, going into the Izzy fight, and his cardio's looked a lot better since then. So it's obviously a little too early to tell, but I think how dramatically improved his cardio has been, I think you can definitely correlate it to the nose getting fixed. I've, funny enough, never had a broken nose despite being punched in my nose 1,000 times. It feels like never had one, and hearing people talk about it, it's like, wow, yeah, it definitely seems like it'll jack you up. I mean, when I boxed, everyone says, "Oh, aim for the eyes and the temples with your jab." I used to aim for the nose because I knew at the time my cardio was really, really good. So I was like, I don't want you breathing. I don't want you breathing normal. Maybe you'll get lucky and you'll blow your nose Donald Cerrone style.
Based on what you've seen over the course, obviously we've done a lot of tape study in regards to this main event. What's your opinion on how DDP handles himself on the ground? Because a lot of the things that people are bringing up as a negative against DDP is the Derek Brunson fight, where I think Brunson caught him with something, DDP was wobbled and almost pulled himself into full guard.
Did he fight that he tried taking someone down and just like he was it Marcus Perez? I think it was Marcus Perez, where he tried taking him down. And do you remember that time Matt Lindland knocked himself out?
Yes.
Yeah, he did that essentially, but didn't knock himself out, and he was fine. He did that, I think, against Marcus Perez, I think it was. Um, I know it wasn't Trevin Giles that he did that too. But yeah, the Brunson fight is an interesting because he couldn't, like, his wrestling looks horrible. It looks terrible. I love that clip of Izzy like catching him with a right hand and DDP falling, and it looks like he face plants, gets knocked out, and then somehow Izzy slips on a banana peel. And wait, DDP wasn't unconscious. He was going for a takedown this whole time. He's on his back now. Like, it's so funny. I love that clip. That clip, I watch it probably like every time DDP is getting close to fighting. I watch that like once a week
Is
minimum.
is there method to DDP's madness? Like, because everybody almost seems to clown the guy, but he's getting the job done. He's beaten some good fighters.
It's horrible. And his method and his madness is horrible. If I was a coach, I would be like, if I see you fighting like that, I'm fighting you for real in the parking lot. Like, I'm not putting up with this. Like, it's horrible. It's horrible to watch, which, hey, the aesthetically pleasing styles don't have to be or the styles don't have to be aesthetically pleasing. If that was the case, then Tai Chi and Taekwondo would be the greatest bases for martial arts. Kung Fu as well. Um, and it has to be effective. Effectiveness is where it matters. And BDP has a quote on it. I have it here. He kind of blows it off, and he says that he argues that it's a fight first approach. I'm not in a choreography exercise, which is just hilarious. That is such a funny quote to me. That said, I,
Because I remember seeing from, I think it might have been Jack Slack actually. He did a breakdown of DDP's skill set. And he actually said, because he got that takedown on Rob near the end of the first round, and he actually says that's a really high level judo technique. The DDP used to get that takedown. So there must be something there.
he has like he has the skills. Like he clearly trying to think how to describe him. I'll give you an example. And I'm not talking bad about either about one show. I'm trying to almost praise another. It's The Big Bang Theory. I'm not a fan of, and I'm not talking crap about it. But that is a show about incredibly smart people, written by people who aren't very smart. I feel, and it's designed for the average audience.
Yeah.
You know, there is then on the flip side, the almost antithesis of that show for me, in a way. I always struggle with that word for pronunciations. I'm from the South. I apologize. But is Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which is a show about the worst and incredibly stupid people that happen to be some of the worst humans in history. And in terms of for a normal person, they're awful people. And that's written with an incredibly very very intellectual writing, right? Stupid people, and that shows for all audiences as well. But a lot of people really like appreciate that show for like for little nuances in it. And I'm willing to say DDP might be the Always Sunny of MMA, where he actually does have pretty smart strategies and has the knowledge of incredibly difficult high level techniques. Um, it just looks stupid. Like, you know, an example, I guess I could say to to throw some shade. If I'm gonna rag on a guy, because I'm not trying to rag on DDP, I'm willing to, but it might seem that way. To present an olive branch, I'll make fun of myself. My favorite two techniques in striking, outside of like the basic jab and body hook and stuff like that, and low kick, my favorite of the fancy techniques whenever I'm hitting the bag or hitting the mitt is are spins. I like to spin. I like throwing spinning back fists, spinning elbows. Those are fun. My absolute favorite throw is I love throwing spinning back kicks to the head and to the body. I love throwing those. And if anyone wants proof, maybe one day on a Brucey bonus, I'll have a friend of mine film me hit a bob. I have a bob in my garage. I'll throw some fun stuff at that to be like, yeah, I'm not just all talk. I know what I'm doing. I'm good. Something for a Brucey bonus one day. But I have watched myself throw it, and I feel like when I'm throwing it, I feel like I look like Anderson Silva when I'm throwing it. No, I look like DDP probably throwing it. You know what I mean? Like I know how to throw it. I'm throwing it 100% correct. I take my left, I'm right-handed, take my left foot, put it here. So I'm stepping through and I get the twist. Here comes the right foot. I know what I'm doing. I know how to spin. I can spin 1,000 times and not get dizzy, it feels like. And yeah, but man, I look stupid throwing it. So maybe that's how it is. Maybe that's how it is for him.
One question I do have though, because we're getting now 10-minute warning here.
Mhm.
For me, the biggest X factor is, does DDP, for all of these technical skills, for all of these sort of method in the madness that comes with his technique, does he have the survival instinct to survive round one?
I think so. I think he's incredibly durable. He's he's incredibly durable. I think he's strong enough to be like, oh, hey, like
Because the
you're
one
trying to
con
outstrength me here. I'm strong enough to hold you and stop you from doing that.
because the one concern I do have as well is I kind of get the fear that DDP is going to put himself in a bad position. And because spoiler alert, I am picking Khamzat to win this one. I think he's going to get it done in round one. I think that there are types of fighters that are going to get him into those later rounds, but you've either got to be like Gilbert and you've got to have a guard game that scares him into striking, or you've got to be an elite wrestler yourself, like Kamaru Usman was. I don't think DDP is that person. For the sake of a fight, I hope that DDP can take this into the later rounds because I think if he does, we get ourselves a very interesting matchup.
I think I think the matchups are more interesting with Hamzat as champion, but I'm picking DDP to win. I'm picking the upset. I think, and I want to say this, I've been trying my hardest not to rag on DDP. I'm willing to rag on him for one joke. I legitimately give every fighter on the roster a striking edge over DDP on paper because it's really hard to convince me a guy who's tries throwing an overhand left and is so bad at it that he accidentally headbutts Sean Strickland in the hip. Like how is this guy's champion? This guy has a striking edge over people. I want to see a kickboxing match between him and Ben Askren. Um, speaking of, so happy for Ben Askren. Like really.
Yes, yes.
But I just if I'm gonna name drop him, I gotta bring him up and be like, oh, dude, broke my heart, and I'm so happy for him. But I think I am picking DDP to win. I think there are more interesting matchups. If Khamzat wins, the problem is we're never gonna see him because he fights like once a year.
Yeah. That's actually, you've brought me onto one of my final points here, which is um I've got the real and again, admittedly, I'm biased because I'm not a fan of the guy.
Mm-hmm.
I've got the real feeling that if he does win the belt on Saturday, he's not going to defend it. Because obviously we've got that Imavov versus Baralio fight, which is coming up. The winner of that one probably fights the champion next.
That's the title
And
shot. Yeah,
let's say Imavov wins, he calls out Hamzat. Hamzat will
yeah,
downplay, dismiss them. They're not no good to me. I smash everyone. And while he does that and dismisses them and just says, I'm not going to bother fighting them, I guarantee he will call out the Pereira versus Ankalaev winner and try and fight
yeah.
them.
Or I'll try and fight JDM
Yeah.
or
He's
Shop
already talked
Todd.
about being a freeweight world champion. He can barely make
Yeah,
170. But he can't make 170. That's why he's a middleweight.
I do have a theory. This isn't my theory. I stole this from my best friend Anthony. Anthony thinks the reason Hamzat is so annoying when he's on the mic is because he only knows like five things in English. So he just kind of like jumbles them around, hopes to make a sentence. So like his like words are brother, smash, he sucks. I'm like just kind of mix around. He sucks, I smash brother. Brother, I smash like brother smash sucks I. Like, you know, like and I'm like, that makes sense to me. He probably only knows this like these phrases in English and it's like it's good enough. I'll be fine. Um I I do think their middleweight is on the cusp of being good again because obviously Aliskerov is looking like he can make a comeback, but it's yeah, I think Borayo is probably the next champ. I think Borayo beats. I could see Borayo struggling against Hamza, but I do think he could beat DDP right now. But I'm also big on these fight nerds, so it's my bias. But a guy, the real dark horse of this division that I'm predicting he'll at least get a title shot. I don't know if he'll win, but he's at least going to get a title shot. I would guarantee it is Fluffy Hernandez who fights tonight.
I was going to say Fluffy, but I don't want to date this video. Because
Yeah, true, because he does fight tonight. He loses
imagine if
tonight.
Delete beats him and we've
If
just
Delete
sat
beats him,
here
if Delete beats him, I got more beef with him. Delete's fighting me next.
because of
Yeah,
Cheyenne.
yeah. The winner gets Cheyenne. Like, no, I can't say that. Uh, I, that feels mean. Like, I'll be honest. All jokes aside, that feels a little mean. But I do think if Fluffy wins tonight, then yeah, I mean, I think Fluffy's kind of fighting down here a little bit for me. I think Kopilov is higher up on the totem pole um than Roman Dolidze.
Like the one thing I will say about Fluffy is if Fluffy was to win, touch wood,
Yeah,
um, bearing in mind what we're seeing with Marab, you can make an argument that the cardio wrestler is kind of like the new meta.
yeah. I mean, it's awesome. You know, Fluffy's Fluffy's awesome. I even forgive him for getting TKO'd in like less than a minute by Kevin Holland because he was gonna beat Adolfo Vieira to a T. He literally says, yeah, I'm gonna lose round one. Yeah, and I'm gonna beat the F out of him and choke him out with a guillotine. Okay, sure. Doubt it. But like it happens exactly. It's like, did he read the script early? Like, Derek Lewis joke, the Derek Lewis joke of Yeah, they said I'm gonna win by round one knockout. Like, it's um that one's a crazy one. I'm picking DDP though by decision, I think. I think he could finish him late. I think it'd be funny if he does, but I think it's a decision.
I think if you're a betting man, I haven't seen what the odds are for this, but if you're looking for a bit of an outside bet, maybe like an each way, that kind of thing, put money on this being a draw. I could see a 10-8 round for Khamzat in the first round, and I could see him getting one of the other
Yeah.
four and DDP getting the other three. I think that is it's an outside bet, but there's a root to it.
Yeah, actually there is. Wonder what happens if you put like 20 bucks down.
You're set for the next 3 months.
Yeah, easy.
Because, like, draws are usually about like 25 to 1 or something like that.
I actually do that. I'm not a betting man, but I might be like as a joke, be like, I'm putting 20 bucks on a draw. So Ham's out round one and two.
So that is our recap of UFC 319. We managed to get through that one just about keeping our biases in check. If you disagree with us though, then please post your comments down below. Like, share, subscribe. It really does help the channel out. Another way to help the channel out is through our Patreon page, patreon.com/it's not cage fighting, where over there you'll be able to get videos a little bit earlier than what you normally do. You'll be able to get an exclusive series, INC Uncaged, which hopefully me and Joe will be recording over the next couple of days. You also have the chance to nominate a retro review of your choice, any event in the world of mixed martial arts, and we will get Mitchell to watch it. We'll splice some footage over the top of it, and you can reminisce about a classic card that you watched for the first time. Maybe you attended the show. That is something that one person on Patreon has done. Aaron Sewell, a big thank you for your donation. And as a thank you, we have covered a classic event of your choice. Joe, what is it?
I'm gonna be honest, I already forgot. We started talking about the other cards coming up on our incredible schedule that I was like, yeah, I'm for these. But it was a card. I'm gonna. Oh, I remember. It was Strike Force. Was it Rockhold Kennedy, correct?
Strikeforce Rockhold Kennedy taking place in Portland, Oregon.
That's right. I was like going. It was a local show for. It was a local show for him, and that's how we got it. Look at that. Did I forget, or was it all just a joke? You'll never find out.
Much like DDP, you made it look a little bit awkward, but you managed to recover in the end.
You know, at the end of the day, I still landed that headbutt on that hip. You know.
And I will say as well, it's a really good card to cover too, because it probably features one of the best knockouts of all time in the core main event.
Oh yeah, that card from top. I'm gonna pull it up here if I can. That card top to bottom, I remembered having. That was back when I used to watch just a ton of Strike Force because when I wasn't watching like UFC cards, it's like, oh, there's no fights this weekend. There's no WEC this weekend. Like, okay, and then it's like, well, here's a Strike Force card. All right, like and I mean, I got to watch the rise of Ronda Rousey. Became a Marlos Kunin fan before that. I was so I didn't like Misha Tate, so it made me being a Ronda fan early on even bigger. Oh, how the tables have turned! And whoa, Austin Powers door every time. That's what I
People are going to
always
get
think
the
every time.
impression about me, make all these sort of allusions to Dr. Evil.
I will say this: if Karl is abusing me over my non-fandom of Ronda Rousey, I will blink twice. And so I will. I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything, Karl. Start Morse code. I'll learn Morse code in my blinks. Like send help, send help. Yeah, that the co-main event is not just a great fight, one of the most brutal knockouts you'll ever see, and it's fantastic. Plus, you get to see my boy Lorenz Larkin, even if he is taking on one of everybody's favorite fighters, Robbie Lawler, the MF Doom of MP. It's funny. Love Dustin Poirier. Hey, did you notice they stole that from me?
I
It was
noticed
Dustin
that.
Poirier.
Your favorite
They
fighter's favorite fighter.
they stole that line from me. I've been using that line for years for Robbie Lawler because Robbie Lawler, he's the MF Doom of MMA. He's your favorite fighter's favorite fighter. And they started saying that for Dustin Poirier. And I was like, that's a cool MF Doom, bro. Wait a minute, they stole that from me. I say that for Robbie Lawler. Be putting that on Dustin. Like, I love Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier, probably another MF Doom of of MMA. Him and Justin Gaethje, obviously. But they give me credit. Where's my credit at? I'm not asking for much. Just a date with Laura Sanko.
In all fairness, though, Joe, I have seen a lot of people quoting Holly Holming whenever they refer to Wallenstall.
Thank you. I'm not asking for much. Just $100,000 US cash or
Trademark it.
trademark it so I can make money long term. Maybe, even if it's a quarter every time someone says it, I'll take it. Or hear me out. You give me a date with, I mean, I would say, I want to say Laura Sanko, but I'm sure I'll think of somebody. You know, where's Io Shirai from WWE? TKO owns both. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Best we can do is the betting girl that fluffs the lines.
oh, it's not Kathy Kelly.
Minty.
That one. Yeah, I've seen her recently. Um,
In all fairness,
if
though, I've done a lot of broadcasting before. I've done community radio. I help out at the hospital. It is very, very hard to broadcast live.
it's so awkward. I've done some Twitch streaming here and there, and you can tell sometimes when I have like a larger crowd, whenever I used to do it, if those recordings are still there, you can tell because I don't know what to do. So I just start telling stories of like my friends because that makes me feel like, oh, okay, I can just kind of do it. And an example is we're not live, but if you want to see how hard it is even doing this recording, go watch my first my first recap. It's still so funny to me. You know,
I think we've managed to stall enough for you to get all your notes
I have them all
because
here.
after we do Strikeforce Rockhold versus Kennedy, we will be getting back on track with some of our themed retro review topics. And there is a loose link to UFC 319 if it goes the way that Joe believes the fight will do, which is the
Mhm.
theme for what was supposed to be our August retro review was unbeaten fighters competing for a UFC title and falling at the final hurdle. Will Khamzat be the latest to join that line? He could join one of these four. We put together four classic events from years gone by in which an unbeaten fighter ended up losing the title match. Joe, what were the nominees and which card will we be covering?
We had some really fun ones here. We had UFC 35, which was BJ Penn taking on Jens Pulver. That was what I voted for. Full disclosure, that'd be kind of fun to go to a classic card like that. UFC 142, which I have very fond memories of watching it live. Jose Aldo, Chad Mendez, Jose Aldo starting a near riot after the fight is incredible. UFC 170, which is Sarah McMahon and Ronda Rousey,
The
which
Battle of the
was pretty
Olympians.
fun. Yeah, and then I also love how you just straight up call Patrick Cummings a coffee barista because he was like, we're not being mean. That's the truth. He was a coffee barista, got a co-main event against DC. Hilarious. And not only that, started telling everybody how he made Daniel Cormier cry, which is big no-no. You don't tell about any of like those little things in there because it happens to everybody. Your favorite fighters probably cried after a rough day in a training. This is what it is. And then UFC 228, which was Darren Till potentially becoming the face of British MMA. Spoilers, he doesn't, as he takes on Dana White's favorite fighter ever, Tyron Woodley.
I heard somebody describe that fight as Chosen One versus Chosen One.
Yeah. Uh, I'm not saying this joke because their nicknames.
Well,
A friend
Woodley
of
is the
mine said,
Chosen One, and Darren Till was very much a Dana White project.
well, a friend of mine was said he didn't like their nicknames because he thought they were like racially insensitive. And then I told him, no, you have it backwards. And he was like so embarrassed at like how casual of a take he had there. And I said, no, 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 that's Darren Till's nickname.
I wonder
That's
what the American perception is of Liverpool, based through Darren Till and Paddy Pimblett.
I know from friends playing video games with online what it is. but there until I assume Liverpool. I assume most people have a lot of extra spit in their mouth. There's like if you hear like the Scouser accent, it's very saliva heavy. We don't get knocked out. We just get. It's a lot of that. It's a lot of that. So then again, I'm sure Liverpool has a very, very negative reaction of Oklahoma. Probably just go, what? Where? So it is what it is.
I'll show you some of the Harry Enfield Scousers sketch once we get off air.
The
Uh,
spouses.
Unfortunately, though, or fortunately in this case, you
Yeah,
won't be
it's
hearing any
correct.
of Darren Till's Scouse accent because UFC 228, it only got 23% of the votes. Our
Mm-hmm.
winner, we are going to Brazil, Joe. UFC 142
142.
is the winner, 44% of the vote, 228 finishing in second. UFC 35 getting 22% and 11% for UFC 170. So it was actually one of the more competitive polls that we have done so far. So that is a video that you can
Admittingly, the
look.
best card probably won.
I think so as well. I always think the
Yeah,
best cards for me are the ones where every fight on the main card has some kind of story. And I think you
talking
can say
point
that
at
about
least.
142.
There's a talking point about everything going in and out of it, you know. So, because I mean, Terry Adam was awesome, and that's something to talk about is post that fight Terry Adam. So, and then UFC 35. I mean, I voted for it because it's a proper like old card. So, but it is what it is.
Yeah. And we're going to be doing something completely different for September. Now, our original plan for September was we were going to cover a classic Cain Velasquez card. This was when UFC 320 was speculated to be taking place in Mexico. Cain sort of being marketed as the great Mexican hero, even though he's from California, was one of the reasons why we did that. However, the UFC pulled the Mexican card. The stadium wasn't ready. So there is no card taking place, no pay-per-view taking place in September. So we
Weird.
decided to use this opportunity to uh, maybe just go a little bit off piste, try and choose some topics that we don't think are going to come up naturally. And bearing in mind that we have a lot of Bellator fighters entering the UFC, obviously MVP is in there now, Aaron Pico is going to be making his debut, Pitbull's in
Oh,
there. We decided to take this opportunity and cover our first ever Bellator card. We gave everyone a selection of 4 cards, 2 from the Rebney era, 2 from the Corker era. Joe, what are our nominees?
so we have Bellator 58, which is just admittingly one of the coolest cards ever in terms of the fun factor. Alvarez Chandler is crazy. Both their fights are just like in wonderful matches in different ways. And then you had Hector Lombard and Shlemenko, which was another fun rivalry at the time. Hector Lombard had a lot of hype coming into the UFC. So in the theme of Bellator guys coming to the UFC, you had Eddie Alvarez and Lombard, both who came in with a ton of hype. And then Bellator 120, which was Rampage King Mo, which is very fun. Then Tito and Shlemenko, which is really, really weird to think about. And it was Chandler Will Brooks, wasn't it? Was that the third big one there?
It was Chandler and Will
Yeah,
Brooks for the lightweight title.
a wild one too. Interesting how that one plays out too. Uh, then my pick,
My pick as well.
my pick, because I probably would have made a comeback if this one. If this one, I would have been like, Carl, I'm ready to come back for one night stand. My ECW reunion uh, was Bellator 149, which, if you don't know, let's just say that card is not very good, and it was put together badly. And I personally believe it was put together badly on purpose. Because Ken Shamrock and Hoist Gracie 3 is on the card, which has my favorite MMA quote ever. He did it on purpose, like a child, Ken Shamrock says. Then probably the worst fight and most dangerous fight of all time, which is Dada 5000 Kimbo Slice. Why was it? Why is it the most dangerous fight ever? I'm not making that joke here. Um, a couple, 2 fatalities came out of that fight. Came out of that fight. It's crazy. That card is so bad. It's hilarious.
It is the
Um,
room of MMA cards.
yeah, it is that's a perfect way to describe it because it's a you have to see it to believe it. And I hate that it didn't just lose. It got 24% of the vote, which sounds amazing, right? But at winning with 50% of the vote is Bellator NYC, which in fairness is the better card. Top to bottom, it's a great card. Because Bellator 149, you look at it on Wikipedia and you go, oh, this is like a horrible card. It's got to be like Silva Bisping that we covered. Like it's no, that's one of the worst cards ever, but it's just boring. Bellator 149 is hilarious, like how bad it is. Um Bellator NYC is legitimately a good card with weird talking points in it. So
I think
and it has
if you want a good, I think the best way to describe Bellator NYC is if you want like a good sort of platter of what
yeah,
Bellator is, that's a good example of it because you've got the aging veterans, you've got title fights that maybe don't deliver, you've got a lot of weird stuff that happens. Aaron Pico makes his debut on that card. I do think it is a very good card that they've chosen. My personal vote would have gone to 149, but NYC has a lot of positives.
yeah. 149, could you imagine? Hey, if anyone's watching wants a Patreon request,
Certainly
can you
so,
imagine?
yes.
Yeah, I legitimately might be like, I'm coming out of retirement for this. This is my Ric Flair's last match. Uh,
Which is quite apt for Bellator 149, isn't it?
exactly. This is my Ken Shamrock
I might actually
voice
do that
three.
as the thumbnail. I might actually do like a mock-up of Ric Flair's last match with Ken, Hoist, Dada, and Kimbo.
Oh, that's so funny. And then we have one more poll as well here. If you want to do the preamble for that,
Yes, our
or,
final.
or no, we're not. We're still waiting on the finished results of October.
Yes. So the poll that we do have for the October one, which is still running, by the way,
Okay.
is finally, Joe, finally, the heavyweight title is going to be defended. Tom Aspinall will be making what a lot of people believe is his second title defense up against Civil Gane that will be taking place in Abu Dhabi. And since heavyweight title fights are so few and far between, we had to take the opportunity to do classic heavyweight title fights. We have
Mhm.
got four of them from all four eras when it comes to the UFC. So we can go proper old school, the early Zuffa era, the post-tough expansion, through to the modern day with like the Reebok and the Venom era. So Joe, what are our nominees?
We had some wild ones. So we had UFC 12, which was crazy. Mark Coleman, Dan Severn, first UFC title fight for heavyweight. It is amazing.
Historically
19-year-old,
important as well. Vitor
yeah.
Belfort makes his debut on that card. Joe
And
Rogan
then
makes his
some,
first appearance. Dolphin
yeah, this
Alabama.
bald guy who keeps talking about elk meat shows up and we just gave him a mic. And Joe Rogan. Actually, Joe Rogan had hair. I can't even call him bald because he had hair. That's how far back it was.
It was also the
Um,
card as well, which it was supposed to be in New York, and then they moved it to
mhm.
Dothan on like 24 hours
Oh,
notice.
yeah, it's a crazy history lesson. That card you can almost like make a full video about just because of like how weird and like the story of it is insane. UFC 31, one of the best cards ever. Dana White ever says that because it legitimately is. Randy Couture Pedro Hizu is one of the greatest fights ever. Still, that fight holds up very well. Pat Miletich Carlos Newton has a crazy finish and is actually a pretty good fight. Um, and then just tons of champions top to bottom in it. It is a very, very good card. 116, which admittingly was my vote. And it is Brock Lesnar comes back from diverticulatus and he takes on Shane Carwin. Shane Carwin, the only guy with bigger hands than Brock Lesnar. Um, and had two fights on it, and that fight is if you know, you know already, right? There's two fights on there. This is the reason I picked it. There's two fights on there that got fight of the year on it, and or fight of the night, or fight of the night on there. One of them was the definitive fight of the year, and the other one was probably, well, that's probably a top three fight this year, but like two fights before in Chris Lieben Yoshihiro Akiyama, which is a crazy, incredible fight. If you've never heard of it, I implore you to go watch it right now. And then Stephan Bonnar, Krzysztof Sosinski is an amazing fight as well. Like it's a very good fight. Like I remember watching that fight and going like, wow, this is probably one of the best fights this year. And then 2 fights later, never mind, this is better than any other fight this year. It's a crazy moment. And then 241, which I have very fond memories of because this card is crazy, is Stipe DC big super fight. But then you had oh no, this is the rematch, isn't
This
it?
is the rematch, yes.
Yeah, this fight is even crazier. Um, the first one is like, eye poke into clinch short right hand, which is kind of wild. But this one was a crazy fight. Because Stipe, who normally is very tactically intelligent, spends about 5 rounds with a guy before finally going, what if I just do something smart instead of Humber Simpsoning my way in this? And it works. It's awesome. Oh, the greatest heavyweight ever, guy, ladies and gentlemen. I stand by that. He really is for me. But it took him 5 rounds almost to finally go. Maybe I should like attack the body.
From a personal perspective as well, this card has one of the few times I actually had a prediction which came out to be right. Because I heard a lot of people in my sort of everyday circle hyping this one up, and I said, look, main event's probably going to be good. Yes, you've got Nate Diaz returning, but Yoel Romero versus Paulo Costa is going to steal the show.
Jack's like a car on that fight, and it lives rent free in my head. And this is the juiciest fight I've ever heard of in my entire life. And yes, that is if you want to let at that time there is I imagine if they both went to like the restroom at the same time, it would be like you'd be walking out and your Geiger counter would be just like through the roof on that, like holy crap. And that fight is insanity. Um Also one of the best still images of a kick ever is Yoel Romero because it happens so fast. He just you don't know, and like it's super slow motion. You actually see what happened. He eats that kick, and his face, like over here, forms around the shin. It's disgusting and awesome. But if you are voting on that, definitely get on it now because he's running away with it. We're only at a little under 700 votes, so tons of time for the comeback. We've seen it happen ourselves, so
Yeah.
definitely
Uh,
possible.
yeah, pull on a full on like England women's football team style comeback. And
Yeah,
hopefully it might be able to win.
exactly. Think of it as 116 is Gray Maynard, and you're Frankie Edgar, and you really, really want to kind of write in a vote. You want to write in Bellator 149, go on and do it. You write it in, and maybe we'll consider it because that was technically a heavyweight fight, wasn't it?
Well, BJ, well, you did actually. I lost my train of thought there.
Yeah, yeah, we almost had it.
Yeah,
That was a spur of the moment joke. That was a spur of the moment joke.
yeah. I think we need to rehearse a lot more of this.
But isn't that kind of the fun is seeing me flub over everything?
True, true.
Yeah,
So before we trip over ourselves and outstay our welcome, we are going to wrap things up here. So my name has been Karl Bainbridge. That's been Joe
that's
Neal. It has been an absolute pleasure once again to be doing this show. We tried a new format. Hopefully you will like it. If not, then please post the comments. And me and Joe will be back in a few weeks' time. UFC 320 is just around the corner, and a light heavyweight title rematch will be on the cards. Will it be vengeance or vindication when Magomed Ankalaev takes on Alex Pereira for the second time? This is the INC. Thank you so much for watching.